Hey guys, in today's video I want to show you the top 5 most dangerous moves on the tennis court. And the first move that you want to avoid is serving full blast when you're not warmed up. I am guilty of committing this dangerous move, and what can happen to you if you serve at full speed without warming up your shoulder, it's pretty obvious. You can blow out your shoulder. Now, for demonstrative purposes, I did not warm up. I'm going to blast the serve completely cold, and I'm going to guide you through my experience. Oh! Okay. I don't think it broke anything, but a tremendous amount of pain in the shoulder. So guys, you have to absolutely avoid going onto the court and start serving fast without warming up your shoulder. One of the simplest warm-up exercises for your shoulder is simply going through your service action dry, like a shadow stroke. This will loosen up your shoulder. Also, you want to perform stretches where you're stretching the inside of your shoulder, the back side of the shoulder. You can also use bands. These are going to be great to warm up your shoulder. Or you could simply step up to the baseline and serve very gently at first, maybe 20 miles an hour, and you do 5 serves like that, and then you slowly start increasing the speed, and then once you're ready to go fast, your shoulder is going to feel just fine. The second most dangerous move that you can make on the tennis court is sliding. And a lot of the younger generation of tennis players, they slide on hard court. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I've tried this many times. The first player that I ever seen with a professional level slide was my friend Felipe from Brazil, who was a former professional soccer player, a phenomenal athlete, and he was sliding like Djokovic on the hard court. And I was super serious about learning how to slide, and he showed me how to do it. He said you have to move really fast and then kind of stop with the side of your foot and then slide out. And I tried this once and I almost broke my ankle. And mind you, I've been playing tennis my whole life. So unless you're a high-level junior who can naturally slide on a hard court, under no circumstance should you attempt to ever slide on a hard court, because the risk of injury is enormous. You are guaranteed to do something to your ankle or your knee. Now, how about clay courts? Well, here you might be surprised that I'm going to tell you a very similar thing, because a lot of my audience is in the United States, and we don't have red clay in the United States. We have hard true, and sliding on hard true is tricky because a lot of times the lines might be raised a little bit, and you slide and your foot gets caught on the line and you go flying. I've seen more injuries at the recreational level on the hard true courts than I've seen on hard court. Why? Because on a hard court the footing is secure. You can get out of the blocks safely, you can stop safely, where on the hard true the clay on the surface is unfortunately not as evenly distributed as it would be on a red clay court, and also the maintenance is not of the same standard usually. So if you slide and you catch one of these spots that has a ton of clay, your foot might get caught. On the other hand, a spot with very little clay is super slippery, and then your foot slides out and all of a sudden you pull a muscle. So for those reasons, if you're playing tennis at the recreational level, and if sliding is something that doesn't come natural to you, in other words, you want to learn it, I'm advising you to not slide even on hard true. You can play on the hard true surface just like you play on the hard courts. Now, for my watchers in Europe, South America, or any other place where red clay courts are more common, here the sliding is more intuitive. It is definitely easier. The quality of the clay is higher, the consistency of the clay is better, and the maintenance of the clay is generally better than it is in the United States. So for those reasons, it is okay to slide on the red clay, even at the recreational level. Now, there's one caveat to sliding on red clay. You have to understand that at the highest levels, players slide laterally. In other words, if they slide out to a forehand, they're not going to slide this way, they're going to slide laterally like this. And when you slide laterally, even on the red clay, there's a danger of you rolling your ankle. So what I recommend for the recreational level is the forward slide, where the tip of your shoe is going forward and you're sliding into your shots that way. Yes, this is not optimal when we're talking about lateral movement, because you're going to be able to recover much faster when you do a lateral slide. Also, with a lateral slide, you have the ability to stop yourself. In other words, hit the brakes when you're running down a drop shot. Sometimes when you slide forward, you might slide out or slide too far. So there's no doubt in my mind that the lateral slide is the better slide. Otherwise, you wouldn't see it at the elite level. However, despite its advantages, keep in mind that the risk of injury is higher when you slide laterally, and it's for that reason that I recommend the forward slide for my recreational players that play on the red dirt. The third most dangerous move that you can make on a tennis court is the closed stance hip destroyer. Now, for you guys that have been following me for a while, you know that being open stance or closed stance mainly depends on the penetration of the incoming ball. But when I say mainly, there are a few scenarios in the court where you either have to do closed stance or open stance. And one particular scenario is when you're pulled out laterally and forward at the same time. Now, this doesn't affect the backhand. This is only an issue for the forehand. And if I get a ball that's wide but also short, in other words, I'm moving towards this corner right here. If I attempt a closed stance forehand, in other words, I go like this, and the momentum of my movement is carrying me in this direction, I'm going to lock my hip without the ability to rotate, and I'm going to destroy my hip. Let me demonstrate what happens when you do the closed stance destroyer. Now, I didn't hit it hard because I'm scared to blow out my hip. That's definitely not something that I need right now. But what happens when you're moving this way, the momentum is carrying you in this direction. And if you do a closed stance forehand, in other words, if you hit the shot off your non-dominant foot, you lock yourself from having the ability to rotate. So you're probably going to be okay if you hit a forehand like this, but a lot of times when we play tennis, we want to intuitively hit our shots the best way. So if you try to rotate and your weight is on this foot, while at the same time the momentum is still carrying you this way, you're going to destroy your hip. So what you have to do under these circumstances is do something what I call open close. You see there that I hit the ball off my dominant leg and the movement was dynamic. So as I continued to swing through my forehand, the other foot came through. And because of this dynamic movement, I was fully capable of rotating my torso and maintaining my normal forehand. Now you're probably asking yourself, Nick, what about doing a dynamic close to open footwork pattern? It's not going to work because if you hit your shot off this foot, your hips are going to be locked and you won't have the ability to rotate even if this foot comes through. So in other words, you might be able to rotate if you come through with the back leg once you have hit the ball, but this is not going to have an effect on your forehand because remember, on the forehand you have to rotate into the shot and not after you have made contact. Now, one caveat with this particular ball is that if you have plenty of time to come to this area of the court and set your feet, now it doesn't matter so much because you don't have that forward momentum carrying you in this direction. So you might be able to execute a regular closed stance forehand. But under no circumstance should you ever attempt a closed stance forehand on a ball that's making you run in this direction because this move will destroy your hip. The fourth most dangerous move on the tennis court is moving backwards. Now you're probably thinking, Nick, we have to move backwards on the tennis court. What if we get pushed back by a strong ball, or if we're maybe hitting an overhead that's pushing us back? Yes, you are going to move backwards, but under no circumstances should you ever move backwards like this with your chest pointing towards the other side. This is one of the most dangerous moves at the recreational level. I've seen more players, whether it be juniors or adults, fall backwards and hit their head because you don't have a good sense of balance. You're not looking backwards where you're stepping, you're looking at the ball, and when you move backwards like this, your foot can get caught and you go flying to the ground and hit your head on the court. So what you have to do when you're moving backwards, you need to initially turn your body, and now the movement is going to be more secure because you're going to be moving laterally. You have several options. You can move side step like this, or you can even cross over step. Now, because of this lateral backwards movement, you are less likely to fall backwards. In other words, your balance is not going to be affected as much, and on top of that, you're going to be moving backwards much faster. Now, most importantly, this movement also makes sense in the context of the sequencing of the stroke production. So think about it this way. If you're moving backwards like this, now let's say you want to hit an overhead, and once you're ready to hit, you start turning late like this, you're going to be out of time. So whatever shot that you're hitting while moving backwards, you turn towards the side that you're hitting the shot from. So let's take the overhead as an example. I'm going to see a lob that's going deep. The first thing I'm going to do is not go back like this. I'm going to initially turn because I want to hit an overhead, and now I'm going to be moving backwards. I'm already in the correct position that I need to be in. Now let's say that I'm running down a lob, it's going to be the same sequence. I'm not going to go back like this. I'm not going to turn around and lose sight of the ball. I'm going to track the ball and I'm going to turn my body sideways and run like this. So guys, this is super important. Under no circumstance should you ever move backwards on the tennis court because it's a very dangerous move. And last but not least, the fifth most dangerous move on the tennis court is hitting yourself with the racket. And I made a video 4 years ago where I was hitting myself with the racket in my shin on purpose on the serve, and my shin blew up like this. Ah! Ah! Oh! Oh! Oh yeah, that hurt. Let's redo that video. Why not? But this time I'm only using 2 balls and I'm going to try to hit my shin on the serve. I can't do it, guys. I can't do it. I don't know how I did it 4 years ago, but I can't do it. I don't have the courage to smack myself in the shin because it hurts really bad, let me tell you. Let me try one more time. Nah, I can't do it. I'm sorry. I guess I'm older and wiser. Oh! But in any case, a lot of players will hit different body parts with their racket, and this is due to technique. So let me tell you why a lot of players hit themselves on the serve or the overhead, for example. So they will attempt a flat serve usually, where the racket is more going forward. A lot of times these players will not have any torso rotation, so they will swing forward the racket and stay sideways. And naturally, when you don't have torso rotation, look where the racket goes. It's not going to swing out around your left pocket if you happen to be right-handed. It's naturally going to go right towards your non-dominant shin if you don't properly rotate. The same is true for the overhead. If you don't have torso rotation and you accelerate really fast forward, you're going right towards your shin. So what do you have to do? You have to execute your serve and your overhead with torso rotation so that naturally the racket can swing out towards your non-dominant pocket. Is there such a thing as a dominant pocket and a non-dominant pocket? I'll let you be the judge. But in any case, if you happen to be right-handed, go towards your left pocket. But the serve is not the only shot where players have a tendency to hit themselves. One of the most common ways players get in trouble is when they attempt tweeners or behind the back shots. This is where players will usually hit themselves either in the shin or at a much worse place. Now, will avoiding these top 5 dangerous moves guarantee that you won't get hurt on a tennis court? No, because tennis is quite dangerous for the body. It puts a lot of stress on the body, and some of these things that happen to your body, you're not in control of. In other words, nobody plans to pull their muscle or throw their shoulder out in the context of a normal match. But the things that are listed in today's video are definitely things that you have full control over and things that you should definitely try to avoid.